Hi, I'm John Mallos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this Monday morning. It's on the air, off the presses. Today we're talking about what's going on in the city of Fresno, from the city council to Keith Foster to other things. We'll even throw in Donald Trump. My goodness, will there be an impeachment? 436-MeTV option 11. Dr. Thomas Casagrande, our sponsor today here on the program.
Tonight I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
Back here on the program on a Monday morning. Glad you're here on the air, off the presses, of course. Back here on Connect with Me on MeTV Fresno. Hope you had a great weekend. It's going to be an interesting week ahead here on the program. Today is going to be interesting as well. Tomorrow, just a quick programming note. Dennis Hart will be back here. Then on Wednesday, hey, we got our old friend Doug Vagum. He'll be back. He'll be talking some city stuff too. He has his own opinions about what's going on. I love Doug. Of course, he ran for mayor. Didn't make it. He was behind Measure G, Measure W. Doug Vagum is all over the place. He's still very active, even though he was, he didn't even make it to first base as far as the election is concerned. But that's okay. We like Doug's opinion, and we like your opinions. 436-MeTV option 11. Dr. Thomas Casagrande, the sponsor today. You're watching us live on Comcast, as you do every Monday through Friday. Comcast 375. Oops, we got a call already. Hang on a second here. No, Carrie. Let me find it. Yes, caller. Can you wait a second, please?
Sure.
Yeah. Is there a problem? Hello, caller?
Yes.
Is there a problem?
No, I was trying to get try to be on live with Mr. Mallows.
Okay. Let me get through this monologue, and I'll get right to it. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, you're watching us live on Comcast, channel 375 as usual, Monday through Friday, 10 to 11 o'clock in the morning. If you don't have Comcast cable, it's 13.1, 43.6 over-the-air broadcast, and it's a live call-in show, and sometimes we do get call-ins during the monologue. Hey, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 13.6 U2 is the replay, and 8 o'clock tonight, 4.6 Biz TV. If you want to watch the replay of this program, it comes on twice and then on YouTube after that. Hey, jurors in the Keith Foster case are back at work today after a long weekend off, and they had plenty of time to think about this case. They can't talk to anybody about it, not even their friends, not even their family, but the hands and the future of former Deputy Chief Foster is in the hands of the jury. This after he was arrested more than 2 years ago for allegedly drug trafficking. Okay, let's put up the first picture. These are courtroom renditions inside federal court. There are no cameras allowed, as you know. Both the prosecution and the defense rested its case last Thursday. Now it's up to 8 women, 4 men. In fact, Foster, they say, the prosecution does, that he was a drug dealer. Or was he a cop working undercover, as he claimed, or at least his attorney claimed? During the trial, Foster took the witness stand and told the jury he was not working undercover, that he was merely selling drugs to get information about crimes that are going on in the city of Fresno. Wow. He told of his extensive contacts, insisting that drug dealers, gangbangers, law-abiding citizens would often call him with tips, and that this was simply normal procedure, and that any information would be passed on to the appropriate authorities within that department. This change of heart from Foster caught his attorney, Marshall Hodgkins, off guard, because he's the one who initially had told the jury his client was working undercover. But Foster's change came after 2 officers testified that it was highly unlikely that a deputy chief within the Fresno Police Department would in fact be working undercover. Foster is accused of 8 felonies with conspiracies to sell heroin, marijuana, oxycodone. If convicted, he could face up to 25 years in prison. Lieutenant Mike Briggs, 30 years on the force, was head of the major narcs unit. He told the jury he's never heard of a deputy chief working undercover. In fact, he went on to say it was Foster. If Foster was working undercover, he certainly would have known about it. All 6 co-defendants, including 2 of Foster's nephews, have already accepted plea deals, leaving Foster, no pun intended, to hold the bag on his own in court. Live in his studio right now is Mike Briggs, former Fresno City Councilman, former California State Assemblyman. He will talk about the perception of the Fresno Police Department and this Keith Foster case. We'll also talk about the Fresno City Council. We'll also take this phone call, and thank you for waiting patiently, 436-MeTV option 11. Dr. Thomas Casagrande is our sponsor today as we await a jury decision on the Keith Foster case. Back in a moment. At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
Take a look at this. Let's play.
This is too hip for you. I'll slow down.
Let's play.
Watch all your favorite classic game shows on Buzzer TV, KVBC Digital Channel 13.7.
Back here on the program, Mike Briggs is here. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Hey, John.
All right. This
Glad
Keith
to be
Foster
here. Yep.
case is really heating up.
Yep.
By the way, CentralValleyTalk.com every Monday through, 7 days a week, actually.
Yep, 7 days a week, live. In fact,
Yeah.
your show's on there, too. We broadcast you live, too.
Okay. All right. Hey, caller, you're on with Mike Briggs. You've been waiting patiently since the monologue. Go ahead.
Yes. Mr. Briggs?
Go. You're on. You have 5 seconds. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Briggs, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
This Keith Foster case, it hinges on the Trump election, immigration, race relations. It also hinges on the disproportionate funds that have been spent on the West Fresno over the last 100 years. That one supermarket that's on the West Fresno sector of town. This case has more to do with being innocent, being proven innocent before guilt. This system that we have right now, it's you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. Donald Trump, which I believe will be a great.
Okay, you're kind of breaking up there, but we kind of get the gist of your question there.
Does he think it's unfair that it's a racial thing, or maybe a little leaning heavier on him because it's a racial thing? Maybe, and innocent until proven guilty. I get that point.
Everybody is innocent
Yeah.
until proven guilty.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter the color of your skin.
I can tell you, federal court's a little
shouldn't.
different. You go into federal court, and it's a whole different set of presumptions and a whole different set of rules. We're used to watching things happen in this, in the local courts, the county courts, but this is a federal court, and it's a federal trial, and there's different rules. And I don't know if the guy's being treated that well at all. I mean, you saw the press, and kind of the press convicted him in advance, so maybe he is being treated a little unfair, like the caller says. I hadn't thought of it, but
Yeah.
We'll see what happens, in a couple days.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Nobody can predict how long a jury is going to take because you don't know exactly the kind of evidence that they're looking at. You don't know if they're looking more at the prosecution than they are the defense, although they're supposed to be even-handed in these cases. But I know you're not an attorney, but so federal court is a little bit different in the rules that they set and the standards. Is it much harsher?
Well, most people who are tried in federal court are convicted.
Most people are.
Yeah, almost everybody that goes to federal court and is charged with something, they are convicted, and just because of the rules and procedures. So it's a tough battle they're fighting, and thank goodness a jury will make the decision instead of just leaving it to a judge, because a lot of times when that federal attorney steps up there and says this and this and this happens, it's hard to, people believe them.
Is it because the feds are more thorough, they have more equipment, more people?
Yeah.
More access to things. Is that why, do you think?
Well, they only go after certain kinds of cases. There's not a lot of federal laws. Most laws are state and local laws. So
Yeah. Caller, hey, you're on the air with Mike Briggs. Go ahead. What do you think?
Yes, I have a look. First of all, for being black, you get a crime. So, okay, and that's good because 98% of the black people are really like bad people. So I think the guy he was selling drugs, and I think it should be it should be worse. He should get life in prison without parole.
Did I hear you correctly? Are you still there, caller? Okay, he just hung up. Did I hear him correctly? What he said?
He thinks 98% of black people are bad. He said, which we know is not the case because.
Okay. Well.
So
Anyway,
how do you respond? So yeah, and you can't just because he's African American, it doesn't make him guilty, certainly, and just because he's in the police department doesn't make him guilty. You know, only if there's truly a crime committed here, well, he deserves to.
It should be based on evidence. Yeah. That's what it should be based on. Not every case is based on evidence. There is jury bias, as we all know. There has been in the past, both in federal court and superior court, not only here in the city of Fresno, but all over the country. People are convicted all the time. Unfairly to a certain extent, but the majority of cases, I would say the majority of them are probably pretty right on. Yeah. But federal court, you're right, Mike. But the thing is, let's put up some of the photos too. We have 5 artist renditions of Keith Foster in court. We'll put them up one by one here.
Well, that's the other thing in federal court. We don't get to see video. They can only draw these pictures.
No, remember Timothy McVeigh? Remember that? The Oklahoma City bombing? We never saw anything in federal court regarding that. It was all sketches. I think Patty Hearst, too. Remember the Patty Hearst case? All sketches, all federal court stuff. There's Keith Foster right there. By the way, these sketches are really outstanding. I believe that's Marshall Hodgkins right there, the attorney for Keith Foster. But here's the thing that shocked me is the fact that, hang on a second, caller, is the fact that Foster said, no, I wasn't working undercover.
Well, his attorney said he was.
The attorney said he was. So what's going through Foster's mind at this point?
And
why?
By the way, I have some bias here because I kind of knew Keith Foster. I was on the city council, and
Hang on, caller.
I've only known him as a dedicated public servant, a person who really.
You don't know him personally.
Yeah, just a little. I met him, certainly. But a guy who really did his job, and he was appreciated for the job he did. He was appreciated by the chief of police who noticed him and brought him up through the ranks. And, there was even talk that he might be the next police chief. So, there's a chance that maybe, well, we'll see how the trial turns out.
Did that surprise you, though, that he said, hey, my attorney said I was working undercover. I wasn't working undercover. What did it have to do with why a change in your mind?
Well, maybe the testimony caused him to change, but he didn't change what he said. He was maybe just correcting his attorney. And if he is calling, like he said, I'm not standing up for him or anything. I'm just reflecting what I read in the same accounts I read that you read. He said, I'm researching the drug traffic in Fresno. That's my job. The chief of police asked me to do that. And, it's kind of undercover. He's covertly asking questions about what's going on, and that's his position.
I wonder how that's going to play with the jury. If you were sitting on a jury and you heard that, and knowing that the attorney had already said, hey, it was working undercover, then he comes along on the witness stand, which is kind of a shocker to begin with, too, and says, no, I'm going to correct my attorney. I wasn't working on it. As a juror, let's say you were a juror.
I don't think that plays well to a jury.
You don't think so?
Yeah, and of course we got an account right out of the courtroom because the reporter, Pablo Lopez, I think, was in the courtroom. He wrote the story, I think. And, I think it'll come down is, did he have possession of drugs that he wasn't supposed to have? Did he have heroin? They say he's charged with selling heroin. Did he have it? Did somebody see him sell it? Did somebody testify that he sold it? Hopefully it will come down to the truth in the evidence.
Yeah. Hey, caller, you're on the air with Mike Briggs.
All right. It's Fresno. It's good to see you back on, Mike. We need another show to replace Chuck Leonard's show. That was a dud anyways. Yeah. But let's get down to really what's going on. This is the face in the public that people get a see of modern-day slavery. That's right, folks. How can you be number 2 in a serious organization like that and number 1 don't know what you're doing? So you're probably banging the same women. You probably sit out in a patrol car whenever you've issued your partners out there duties to be on time so you can bang their wife. These guys know each other extremely well, okay? Now, how do you have your nephews and other people on the force and all that selling dope? it all goes to serve the number one. That guy is conditioned now. He's so conditioned he don't remember his own name. And that's the truth of it. So it's too bad he's taking a fall for number one guy, JD, and he's been doing this for years. So where they're at right now, the guy, if he does roll over on Jerry, he's dead. If he doesn't, he's still dead. Because this is modern-day slaverism. They don't do anything for the West Side. It's just a scapegoat. So Foster, he doesn't even know it. His head is so far up his behind. He's been conditioned for so long, selling out his own people.
Okay, thanks, caller, for that opinion. Interesting
You
opinion.
have an audience. I mean, people are watching your show and calling in. This is great.
Well, Mike, no comment after that. So let me ask you a question. Just listening to his commentary there, and you're welcome to call in with some commentary. And by the way, if you do call in, I heard the second caller call in. Your TV was way up too loud. You got to put the mute button on when you call in so we can hear you. So what do you think? Is he taking the fall for other people?
I haven't seen any evidence or heard anything like that, so I can't
Yeah.
imagine going down that
I wonder if
road.
that kind of culture even exists
Yeah.
within the Fresno Police Department. On the other side of the break, we'll talk about trust within Fresno PD. Can you trust the Fresno Police Department after what has happened with Keith Foster, whether he is found innocent or found guilty? Will it make you trust the police department even more or less? 436-MeTV, option 11. Back after this from Thomas Casagrande, our sponsor, 2020 Optometrics.
When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Whirlpool appliances we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start. But you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Touch the new Whirlpool Ice Collection. It offers a modern style made to create an inspiring kitchen experience. Save big on this Whirlpool Black Ice or White Ice kitchen. Come into Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today. Back here on the program, 436-MeTV, option 11. You're welcome to weigh in and call in on the Keith Foster case. Of course, talking to Mike Briggs here of CentralValleyTalk.com. You can go to your computer, iPad, your phone, and call it up anytime you want. So Mike, let me ask you this before we get into the trust issue, and that is, if Keith Foster were white, would this be different?
Yeah, I don't think the federal government's targeting people based on race. They had wiretaps going on some drug cases, and this guy was swept up in the net. Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with race.
Okay. Perception of the Fresno Police Department. You're a former council member. You've known Jerry Dyer for years. You know the ins and outs of the police department. You know many police officers, having been on the council. You're over at the Tower District now. You still know quite a few cops. What's a perception specifically in the Tower? You know the Tower District better than you know the back of your hand. What do people in the Tower think of the Fresno Police Department? Is there trust, a lack of trust? What's the perception?
Personally, I have great confidence in the police chief and the police department. In the Tower District, we don't hear the same message. A lot of people are upset about how the streets are patrolled there. How maybe North Fresno people are chased out of the Tower District with all these speed traps or DUI traps and a lot of flashing lights, and people aren't made to feel safer by a cop giving out a lot of tickets. They're made to feel safer by a cop walking down the street. A lot of people in the Tower would like to see the cops out of the cars and just patrolling, make it safe, not seeing how many people they could arrest that night.
Yeah, or give tickets to.
Give tickets
I'm
to,
sure. Yeah. So the perception, at least specifically as far as your knowledge is concerned, the Tower District, the general population, not everybody, can't blanket everybody, but a lot of people just they have a dislike for the police department and a distrust.
Yeah, there's a distrust there. I'm not saying for me.
Yeah, no, I know. You're talking about the
neighborhood.
average citizen.
And I didn't hear it once or twice in the last couple of years. I hear it almost daily, somebody saying something
Really?
they dislike or distrust how the police department's run in the Tower District.
Yeah, that's amazing. It just really is. What do you think overall Jerry Dyer has to do to regain that confidence that once stood in this town, the confidence that the police department had at one time? Is it gone? And you look at the Dylan Noble case. I mean, you know that case well. You've read up on it like I have. You've seen the video. We've shown it here a million times. Not going to show it again. You know, after the Noble case and in the Foster thing and several other incidents, how do you regain that trust? Does it take years, decades? What? Change of face? What? A change of police chief? What?
Well, I don't know if the Tower District, what I've collected in the Tower District, comes from distrust of the things the police department has done. But I would say a lot of the things the police department do, like I said, how they patrol the Tower District, comes from a policy issue from people above them. There's a mayor and there's a city council. That one council may say we want to get rid of, drunk drivers, therefore we want you to be more DUI checkpoints. And then another council member, for example, when I was there on the council, I said, no, I want police on the streets, foot and bike patrols in the tower. So I think it comes from the policies of the people above the police department.
So what if you were the police chief or you were the mayor, let's say, what would you have to do to change the perception and regain that trust within the public?
And we're talking about two things. You're talking about public losing faith and trust in the police department, which is not.
Hang on, caller.
Which is not what I'm saying has happened. I'm not said that the city has lost faith or trust in the police chief or the police department.
If people have lost faith or trust in them, what do you have to do to regain? Because some people may have lost faith. What would you have to do to bring those people back into the fold?
Well, it's going to be a PR thing, just like any other issue. You want to change the opinion of the public. You have to do a better PR campaign.
Yeah, and not have so many police shootings, maybe. At least the perception. It's the perception. Perception is everything, don't you think?
Well, you would hate for a police officer in the street who's been trained to think within a thousandth of a second what to do. You don't want them hesitating. Like,
Okay.
oh, we want you guys to go out and shoot fewer people. No, you want them to be trained well and act on their training. And I don't think we want our cops on the street second-guessing themselves in an emergency.
Because that would endanger them and also their partners.
And the public.
And the public, yeah. Okay, caller, go ahead. You're on the air with Mike Briggs.
Okay. For all Americans, I don't think no one should have to put their trust in an institution or
You're
a
going
person.
to have to speak up and turn down your TV set, please.
Okay, I turned it down.
Yeah.
I think that for all Americans, we shouldn't put our trust in a person or institution. You can only have hope that someone does the right thing because we're not perfect. But for blacks in particular, how can you put the word trust in the same sentence as police with African Americans when for so many generations the facts have been blatantly blasted across the screen to us and our children for generations that all of this this racism and all this stuff that's taking place, it's in the institutions, but we have to be strong enough as individuals to be able to separate fact from fiction, just like Donald Trump's been saying. The media has played out this whole thing about Donald Trump being a bad president in the future. The guy has been in there 200 days yet. He's doing excellent. He will do excellent. But the media has this negative this negative thing about it. So they want to keep things to where people think everything's going bad, but it's not. It's not always going bad. But for black people in general, they can be better, but we have to have people like Mr. Briggs sitting there who's in a position to say, okay, we recognize for the last 100 years you don't have a store on the west side of Fresno. We're going to try to fix these problems. We're going to have education, which is the cornerstone to anything, but we just need people like Mr. Briggs who to get to that point. And the 2017 where we are, we need people who have vision, not this the old-fashioned way of doing things. It's going to break this country. It's going to break it half pretty soon.
Caller, let me get specific with you because you're going kind of in like a lot of different directions here. Let's nail this down. Do you think that Keith Foster is being treated unfairly, not only by the press but by the court system, the feds, because of the color of his skin? Yes or no?
No, I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think so. What the culture of this country right now is on race relations issues that are across the board. It started with Donald Trump making one mistake, calling Mexicans rapists, and if he would just use the word illegal aliens, we wouldn't have these problems with Donald Trump right now, because the media blew that out of proportion. Though there was going to be millions and billions of dollars made off of that one statement. That
Okay, but we're not talking about Donald Trump right now. I asked you about Keith Foster.
Right, but that's connected to Keith Foster. The culture that we're in right now has something to do with Keith Foster and the drugs, and him being police chief, deputy being black. That doesn't have anything to do with the being treated fair or unfair. He has to go through the court system like we all have to. But there is an understanding that in America that we all always have to have more things happen, more positive for us for things to go forward because of our race and our culture and the stipulations that are placed on us. And if it's not on purpose for Keith Foster, that's being done on purpose. It's the culture that maybe the jurors might have some bias or something like that.
Gotcha.
But it's just the culture we live in.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. A lot of strong opinions on this show today. Go ahead, Mike.
You and I might have thought of this. We're doing all these analyses. You know, we're not racist or biased or singling this guy out because of race, but maybe a juror would. Maybe a juror did have a life where he was raised prejudiced or something like that. We grew up with that. You don't see it as much now, but certainly our parents' generation, my grandparents' generation, we saw a lot of that. So
yeah, but my parents came from that generation, and they didn't raise me that way. But a lot
you're
of
not
people
on the jury, but somebody on the jury.
No,
might,
somebody on the jury might feel that way, but that's that's up to the court system to try to sift these people out too, right? I mean,
two people have mentioned the grocery store in West Fresno, and it's sad that there is only one grocery store, and they pointed out that I voted to build the grocery store. I mean, it's a part of town that's neglected, a part of town that maybe has been over-policed, a part of town where there is some injustice, and a couple of them were referring to a culture that exists in Fresno,
right?
And that the whole culture needs to change.
The culture needs to change. The attitude needs to change. Let's take this call here before we go to break. Hey, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, about our former Chief Foster there. The guy's got to be guilty. I mean, all Chief Dyer asked him to do was give him a report, on the type of drug sales that were going on in Fresno.
Caller. Let's stop right there.
Yeah.
You said he's got to be guilty. How could you possibly know that? You have no evidence in front of you.
John, I'm trying to explain it to you till you cut me off.
No, I didn't cut you, but you made a statement. But we don't have all the evidence that the jury has, though, either.
Well, but you had Dyer stating that that he asked for a report, and he never got that report. You have Foster saying that he was going deep undercover in order to find out what the heroin situation was in Fresno. But that was 2 years ago, and he never told his boss about it. All these things are never telling your boss, but that's something that is never done in any police department whatsoever. That you go rogue on your own, and don't tell your department that you're going undercover. That's something that's never done. That's not protocol. That's not ethical. That's not ever done in any police department ever. And then you have 6 people that have lined up and have taken plea deals, who were involved with Foster, and have pleaded guilty and have taken plea deals. So this is all going to factor in, so forth. And Foster really can't explain why he never told his boss, why he talked about all these things, why he had illegal drugs on him in his car, so forth. So these are all things that have to be explained, and I don't think he's going to be able to explain them.
Well, no,
but
he already did
Foster,
explain.
I would like to ask.
He already did explain them to a certain extent. He said he was trying to reach out to his contacts in the community because there are a lot of gangbangers, there's a lot of drug dealers, and he was trying to get information. Hang on a second, hang on. He was trying to get information and pass it on to the appropriate authorities. All right, go ahead, crank him up. Did you hear what I said?
But that's his contact who has taken a plea deal from the feds and is now in jail. So what's the validity there?
Well, I don't know. What do you think about him?
There's just a lot of holes in what he's trying to say. He's just upset, and he's trying to save his own skin, and that's great. You can't blame a guy for that. But he did a lot of things that were not that that a good police officer would not do, that a
Okay,
good chief would not do, ever.
So let me ask you another question before you ask Mike a question. That is, what do you think about Keith Foster changing, well, not changing, but actually contradicting what his attorney said, Marshall Hodgkins? Marshall initially said, yeah, he's working undercover. He came on the stand and said, no, my attorney is wrong. I was not working undercover. Yeah, how do you think that plays with the jury?
Exactly, and those are things that, when you talk to your attorney always asks you, well, one thing you always ask, did you do it? Okay, I mean, if you lie to your attorney, then it's going to be a bad deal for you. So when you lie to your attorney can't defend you, and then when it comes out in court that, well, maybe my attorney was wrong, the jurors are going to say, wait a minute, Mr. Foster, didn't you have a discussion with your attorney? Is this what you told your attorney, and now you're changing it? Well, those are things that are going to make a jury wonder if what Foster is saying isn't in fact valid.
Okay, what's your question for Mike?
Well, I was going to ask Mr. Our councilman there, what exactly is going to happen with that? I think it was the Avenue of the Veterans, or whatever the heck it is out there in northwest Fresno, that kind of like leads to nowhere. Is that road ever going to be completed, and is it ever going to connect to anything at all?
Well, I haven't been on the council for almost 20 years, so I haven't followed that issue at all. I do question, though, back to Keith Foster.
Yeah.
Is
stay there, caller.
I mean, this guy. Yeah. All these guys pled guilty, so they didn't have to go to jail.
Okay.
And now they're going to testify in exchange for testifying against Foster. In other words, it's almost like you're paying these guys to testify against Foster.
And how trustworthy are they?
Yeah, how trustworthy are they? So to save their own skin.
Well, that's going to come out in court.
Right.
If what those 6 people say all seem to fall in line with each other, with one another, well, you're going to say, well, you know what? If this person is saying the same thing that the other person is saying, and it corresponds with the next person and so forth, they're going to say, well, you know what? That's got to be the truth. It's not one person is saying it, but 2 people, not 4, and then 4 people are saying it, and then 6 people. So it's got to add some validity to what they're saying, and it may, and it's going to make Foster look, very uncredible.
Yeah. Well, or Foster's attorney will make them look incredible. Would be his job.
Well, that's what Foster's going to hope. But then again, Foster has already made his own attorney uncredible by the fact that he has gone against what his attorney has already said, and that is that he was going undercover, and Foster said something else. So again, everybody's uncredible on that side of the days.
Well, if Chief Dyer asked Foster to go out and investigate, and he's investigating kind of undercover, he's not telling people, hey, how's the heroin supply?
You know that, Mr.
That's kind of undercover. If the chief actually asked him to do that.
No, he asked for a report.
Oh, I don't know.
Written report. That's all he did.
Yeah.
And again, like I stated, that report still hasn't come to his desk. He didn't say go undercover. He said find some facts, look at some research, look at some data, look at some arrest reports and so forth. How many of them are heroin and so forth like that, and give me a report. He didn't ask him to go, to do a Serpico on the whole thing and go deep undercover and that kind of thing. Come on.
I don't know what he asked.
Be realistic, man.
I don't know.
Yeah,
it sounds like you're one of the guys he was going to about asking about heroin. Like you were
but you have to admit, okay, caller, I got to let you go, but I will say this before I go. I just want you to hear this. We don't really know what Jerry Dyer asked Deputy Chief Foster to do. We really don't. We weren't privy to that conversation.
But didn't he testify to that? Did he testify to what he asked for at the jury? At the trial a couple of days back.
Yeah, he did. I mean, I read the accounts in the paper, but I mean, we still weren't privy to that conversation, and I'm not sure everything came out in court either.
Well, you also if you look at the press conferences he had with the former mayor and so forth, and how he was just totally shocked and dismayed, and how how Chief Dyer said, I am partially at fault because I did not keep an eye on my department and the people in my department,
right.
That kind of thing. Dyer he had no idea that this was what he was doing, that Foster was doing.
Well, the thing is that we don't know what a jury is going to do, and I'm not saying that Foster's innocent. I'm not saying Foster's guilty. I'm saying we got to wait and see what the jury says, because that's basically the bottom line.
You know what the jury's going to do, John, because otherwise, they'd be asking you, like, should we be arresting you for witness tampering? That kind of thing. Who's talking?
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
But thanks for talking, John. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Got to take a break. Mike Briggs is here. More topics to get to. 436 MeTV option 11. Wow, our crowd out there is really revved up this morning on a Monday morning at that. Wow. Back after this from Thomas Casagrande, our sponsor today. Man.
Frigidaire. It means the first electric refrigerator. The first compact electric range. Now, there's the Frigidaire Gallery Range with Symmetry double ovens. It's designed to cook multiple dishes at multiple temperatures, so you can prepare the entire meal at the same time. Frigidaire, over 90 years of legendary innovation.
See the full line of Frigidaire appliances at Ventura TV Electronics and Appliances.
At 2020 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 2020 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today. We're back here on the program with Mike Briggs, the former councilman, former state assemblyman, now with CentralValleyTalk.com. You can go to any computer, iPad, and get it. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Let me direct my question to Mike. Now, the gentleman who was talking just before, he was already, saying that Foster's already guilty. How does he know? Because jurors are not going, they have to go by the evidence and whatnot. Now, they say an undercover person like Foster, who's well known, that's crazy. Someone that's going to be undercover or whatever, it's going to be someone that's not well known and whatnot. Because I know, because we live around gangs and all that, you're not going to send someone that they know. Especially as to law enforcement. Now, you're not going to tell me Dyer doesn't know what's going around with his people. I mean, that's crazy, He's the main man. So it's just like Trump. Trump is, firing so many people because of the Russian thing, and he's trying to look, good because he fired this and fired him and security and to deal with the Russian issue. Poor guy, he's been there over 100 days and whatnot. The people can't trust the government to begin with, and now they can't even trust Trump. But if they do find out that he had something to do with it, then there comes impeachment. But leave it to the jurors. Okay.
All right.
Media has everything to do with it. If you read the paper and even any kind of news you hear in any kind or discussion, and it's a hard issue.
Okay.
But he's not innocent until proven guilty. That's all I can say. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Okay, there is something to be said for that. If you're going to go undercover, the police department's not going to put somebody undercover who's well known. Keith Foster, everybody knew his face, everybody knew his name. A lot of people knew him. He was well known in West Fresno. He was well known in Fresno. He was in line, like you said, to be maybe the next chief. So do you send somebody undercover who's well known like Keith Foster? He's like a celebrity. He was like a celebrity almost.
And I like you only know what I see in the B, and we're reading the accounts, and people are talking around town, so I can only suppose things that I don't think the chief sent the deputy chief undercover. His attorney said that word. I'm just saying maybe undercover to the attorney may have meant doing some research or something, or going and finding out. I'm just supposing. The question is did he follow the policies of the Fresno Police Department? Did the police chief set out policies? Did Chief Foster, Deputy Chief Foster, violate those policies? Was he really conducting an investigation? And if an investigation, one caller said, well, when you do an investigation, you make reports and turn it into your superior. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, and I'm quite not. I just don't know how you go undercover with 6 co-defendants, and 2 of those people are supposed to be your nephews.
Right. Yeah, and I don't trust the credibility of those witnesses who've been given a favor in order to testify.
Yeah.
But that's up to Foster's attorney to credit them or discredit them.
Right, and it's going to be up to the jury, and they now have that case in their hot little hands, and they're deliberating now as we speak over at the courthouse, and they're not supposed to read the papers, by the way.
Right.
Not supposed to turn the TV on. In fact, they're not supposed to talk to you and me. They're not supposed to talk to anybody about the case, so they could be and held in contempt if they do.
It's a pretty serious deal.
Yeah, especially in federal court. They don't fool around.
Yeah.
Okay, let's change topics here. Let's put up the picture of Donald Trump. Oh, there's another call. See, it's hard to change topics sometimes on this program, Mike, but we'll take this real quick. Go ahead, caller, quickly, short on time.
Yeah, this has been a great show. But let's put it all in perspective. These people are all doing dirty things.
Okay.
How credible is their character really? And also, between Foster and Dreyer, they've been doing business with each other since at least 1990. So I think it's really important that they look at the climb to power that both of these guys have had and when they intersected and met each other.
Right. Okay.
That way they can connect the dirt, because Foster knows where them skeletons are at.
All right. Thank you very much. But see, that's not the issue. The issue now is, right at hand, is whether or not Foster will be convicted or not. If he is convicted, he faces 25 years to life. No, 25 years in prison. That's what the jury is deliberating. They're not deliberating this ivory tower that this guy's painting within the police department, right?
Right, that's correct. And I got my phone on all the time because that verdict is going to come in any minute. Maybe,
I know it
maybe
is.
Live on this show.
Who knows? Yeah, let me know if it comes in. But let's put up the picture of Donald Trump here. We're going to go quickly. Donald Trump now under investigation. Of course, he took a trip to Saudi Arabia this past weekend. He was welcomed with open arms. He gave a speech. Rex Tillerson was there. Also now, this morning he landed in Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu greeted him off the plane. This is the first time in a long time that a president has actually visited this early in the term. But now Donald Trump is under investigation. Let me put up the picture of Robert Mueller. He is the special prosecutor that's now been assigned to investigate the ties between Russia and the Trump administration. It was an incredible week last week and the week before with James Comey, the former FBI director, being fired, and now the special prosecutor, that's Comey right there, being obviously appointed by the Justice Department. The number 2 guy appointed him. Mike, this is chaotic. Donald Trump's not in the country. There are 3 different investigations going on: the House, the Senate, and now Mueller. What's the possibility he could be impeached?
Well, first of all, I study this. I'm a historian above everything else, and I study history.
Is this impeachable? Is he on that path to impeachment?
I lived through the Nixon era, kind of observing it later, and now I'm observing history as it's happening. First of all, you said Trump's under investigation. I don't agree. I've never heard anybody say Trump is under investigation.
Okay, so why was Mueller hired?
To see if there was a link between if Russia manipulated our campaign, any campaign, and maybe if there was some collusion, not by Trump. Like I don't think they're saying Putin called Trump and they colluded. Maybe some in the campaign did collude.
How do we know, though, until that investigation gets underway, that maybe Trump was involved, or maybe Reince Priebus was involved, or maybe his son-in-law was involved, maybe Steve Bannon, maybe they're all involved.
Maybe they are all involved, but I've never heard anybody to this point say Trump's under investigation.
So, in your opinion, Trump's not under investigation? It's just they're investigating the ties between...
I'm not sure Trump's not. I've just never heard anybody say Trump is under investigation. That's not the theme of the news story. Certainly Flint...
The administration, though, is under fire.
Maybe the campaign.
The campaign.
I don't think the administration's being. I don't think.
Okay.
They did say there is one person in the White House they're looking at.
Yeah, and that's possibly his
maybe
son-in-law.
that's Trump. Maybe it's the son-in-law. Maybe it's Ivanka. Maybe it's there's a lot of people working for the government that were there since Obama's been there, including the Attorney General, the acting Attorney General. So who knows who's under investigation? But I've never really heard anybody say Trump is under investigation.
So having lived, and you and I both lived through the Nixon thing, how do you see this playing out? What do you think's going on here?
Well, I'm a Nixon scholar. I've researched and written tons of papers on Nixon, and I think Trump needs to be forthright. Hopefully, he didn't cover anything up. If he did say to the attorney general or to the FBI director, "Hey, can you kind of give Flint a pass?" And there's a memo proving it, and Trump is saying, "No, I didn't say something that he did." That's where the problem comes in: the obstruction of justice.
Is that a cover-up?
It's a cover-up, an obstruction.
Okay.
and you know, lying. You know,
and
it's kind
that's
of a
what
bad thing,
Nixon
so-
got busted for,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, obstruction of justice.
Yeah. But if you get one or two or three senators that go to the White House and say, look, Mr. President, you know, it doesn't look good.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I watch news accounts and I do extensive research. You go on the internet and read news accounts and reports and stuff. I feel that the press is kind of causing all this. But
Okay.
maybe there's not as much there as they're trying to say. It's like every week, what are we going to get Trump on this week? You know, one little slip up, one little misstep, you know, like the whole thing that he exposed to the Russians, some top secret information. You know, that's not even been established that
Okay,
he
here's
did
what I
that.
have trouble with, though, Mike, is the fact that it's been reported that Donald Trump gave away secret information about what's going on with ISIS to the Russians, Kislyak and everybody. No American journalist allowed inside the Oval Office at that time. It was only the photojournalist from Russia. Second to that, a report comes out that James Comey had written notes stating that Donald Trump asked him to back off or drop the investigation into the Russian connection, into the campaign.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm not a Trump apologist. I'm not a
Right.
guy who stands up for Trump. He digs his own hole.
But what about those two allegations?
You know what worries me more than our commander-in-chief, the guy who information is given to, is for him to decide who to tell it to, whether he tells it to the Russians or not. What disturbs me more than that is somebody was in the room who heard that, and they went out and betrayed the president. I mean, how did the report get out? Somebody's leaking this information. That really
Was
bothers
that
me more.
person not supposed to be there to hear this?
I don't know. We still don't know who did it.
Right.
You know, they say Trump said that. Well, you know, Trump says he didn't say it. You know, and the information is supposedly telling the Russians, hey, be careful on laptops because ISIS is trying to make those into bombs.
Right, and our source now is in Israel. Supposedly that came out that the source came from Israel, now putting somebody possibly in jeopardy from that country, and now Israel may not be happy about it. But see,
Who put him in jeopardy? The president
knows?
talking in a secret meeting to the leader of another country, or the person who leaks that top secret information out to the press?
right. But let me ask you again, is what's going on now, is there a link, is there a pathway? Do you see the same pathway that Nixon took?
Yeah.
Is this leading in the same direction, do you think, or not?
Yeah, if Trump's covering up something, you know, illegal or something he shouldn't have done, certainly it could lead that way. But I just don't see it. I look at so many news sources, and the big ones, especially like CNN and ABC and NBC, and they're just hammering Trump for no reason. I feel
Daily.
some of it is just made up a little bit, creating crises that aren't even there. I mean, why isn't the press focusing on who's leaking top secret information out of secret meetings Trump's having with foreign leaders? That to me, that is the issue.
If let's put up the picture of James Comey again. He also fired the FBI director. Maybe because the FBI director was not backing off. Maybe because he was actually putting more resources into the investigation, into the link between the campaign and Russia. I mean, it looks awfully suspicious that Trump is the one that fired him.
Yeah. And
Doesn't that look suspicious?
Not to me, but I think Trump maybe should have fired him from the first day.
Because
Well, going all the way back to what, even though maybe Comey handed Trump the election by what he did to Hillary Clinton a couple weeks before the election.
10 days before the
10
election.
days before the election. And even if Hillary was Trump's opponent, for a sense of fair play, that was a bad thing for Comey to do, and Trump probably should have fired him then, or Obama maybe should have fired him. And I think the firing was coming, and I think most presidents like to totally change their leadership. It does look weird, it does look funny, but Comey wasn't doing the investigation. He's a top administrator of a giant bureaucracy.
Right. He
So-
was overseeing the investigation.
I
He
doubt
wasn't
it.
actually personally doing it.
Yeah, I've been a chief administrator of a giant organization before. You don't investigate anything. You're the guy who's signing things and giving orders and doing public speeches and stuff like that. Comey wasn't doing the investigation.
But he was ordering the investigation and ordering more resources is what he was doing. Probably signing off on it.
Yeah, I don't
And-
think, and I don't think it'll change. I think it'll continue. So
But okay,
I don't
so-
think firing Comey is going to make any difference in that
So
investigation.
firing Comey to you is not a big deal, but what about asking Comey to back off the investigation? Is
would
that a
be-
big deal?
That would be a big deal, and that's something the president shouldn't do. And I was thinking about this Trump. That's why we don't elect people without any political experience. You know, I would know as a city councilman, a member of the legislature, you don't go to the state attorney general and say, hey, could you back off on this guy or that day? Or when I was on the council, I didn't go to the police chief and say, hey, you know, don't bust this guy, let him slide a little bit. You don't do that. And
yeah,
that's why we should elect leaders who've had some experience in government.
Do you think that's lack of experience on Donald Trump's part? And do you think there's a lack of experience to the point that he still to this day doesn't know exactly how the government works?
Yeah, I think still to this day he does not know how the government works. So.
You really?
Yeah.
And you think he's still trying to feel his way along?
Yeah. Well, Obama, said that he was feeling his way along when he first got there. It's a big learning curve, and that's why we usually keep presidents for 8 years because, it takes them 4 years to learn what they're doing. I think George W. Bush said that. And
but at least George W. Bush and Clinton and President Obama had some legislative experience.
Yeah.
I mean, they both were. I think President Obama was a state senator in Illinois. Then he became a U.S. senator.
Senator, that's right.
So he knew how the system worked. He was an attorney. Donald Trump had zero knowledge or experience.
And Trump is used to absolute power in his companies. What he says goes. And
right.
He probably thinks he is president of the United States. He has absolute power. Hey, don't prosecute that guy. But who knows if he even said that?
Well, do you think that he understands the checks and balances?
Yeah, I don't know. That's going a long way. I mean, he just became president. And another thing Trump didn't get is a honeymoon period. The press just letting him settle in, make his appointments, and get through the few of the learning experiences. And anyway, I just want to go back and say we don't know what Trump said to Comey in that conversation. Certainly, if he says, "Hey, give this guy a pass," that wouldn't be cool.
All right. I want to put up the picture and change topics now. Back here to local. We're kind of bouncing around a little bit here. We talked a lot about Keith Foster, Donald Trump. I don't know what's going to happen there. There are 3 separate investigations. If Donald Trump is being investigated, I don't know, but they're doing the investigation into the election. So who's involved there? I don't. And it's interesting. I don't know if you read the Fresno Bee about 2 weeks ago. The disappearance of one Devin Nunes after he recused himself from the investigation, and interesting to see what will happen when James Comey testifies. I think it's after Memorial Day, I believe. Am I right about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what day exactly. But,
and Nunes recused himself from some of that. So would he even be at the hearing if Comey testifies?
I don't know. He's completely disappeared. In fact, there's a billboard someplace in Fresno. Devin Nunes, where are you? Where are the town hall meetings? There's a bill. I think near 99. There's a billboard.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that, but let's change topics here. Back here because you're a former councilman, you know that area as well. Yeah. And let's put up the picture of Gary Bredefeld. Gary Bredefeld, you know well, you served with him. And let me ask you something. Okay, he wants "In God We Trust" up in the city council chambers, right below the City of Fresno sign. It was approved. It was signed off. It was I think a 6-0 vote. I think one council member was absent. So every one of these members, they voted for that. Right. Did you ever face anything like that as a council member, and do you think it's a good idea? Two-part question.
I faced a lot of votes. So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. I mean, big ones from stadiums and stuff like that.
How big a deal is that?
Well, put yourself in their place. How would you like to be on the council and you're going to vote against God? Against saying "In God We Trust"? You want that on your voting record? I mean,
they obviously they didn't vote against it.
Yeah,
right?
I don't think they're going to have a choice. But
so is that a good idea for Bredefeld to make an issue of that?
My dad taught me one thing I can remember, and he always says that you're going to have enough trouble in the world without going out and looking for it. Why throw yourself into issues that are controversial, especially if they're not going to make a difference one way or another. I mean,
so your father told you what now? There's going to be enough what?
You're going to find enough trouble in the world without going out and making it. Without going out and starting fights. There'll be plenty of fights.
So you think Gary Bredefeld made a fight for nothing?
Yeah. Well, I think city would have been just as well off before as after they put that up. I don't think it's to make a giant change. And I don't mean to say anything against Gary. He's the only council member that's not Christian.
Okay.
Which, usually you'd see one of the,
I did not know that.
Yeah, right-wing Christian guys that would be fighting for an issue like that.
I'm not sure what faith he is, but it doesn't matter. It makes no difference at all. He fought for it, and so. But let me ask you something. Okay, there seems to be, according to George Hofstadter, I don't know if you ever read George Hofstadter, CVObserver.com. He says there's a big riff on the council. They look at Bredefeld as a big grandstanding crybaby with a lot of issues, and he wants all this attention, and he brings up all these issues, and he votes mostly against the grain. Let's put up the other council members. Let's put up Clint Olivier first. There he is. I believe he's the council president. Esmeralda Soria.
Oh, that's Esmeralda.
Yeah, that's Esmeralda right there. Luis Chavez, who has been on this program many times before. Paul Capriolio and Oliver Baines. Okay, Oliver Baines is coming up too. He's the only African American on the council as well. Oliver, a good guy. He's been on this program as well. Okay, it seems to be like these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 against the 2. Steve Brandow, put Brandow up. It seems like 5 against 2. 5 against Brandow and Bredefeld. There's Steve there. What do you make of the rift that's going on? Because you've had a whole host of issues on the table that they've disagreed on, and Bredefeld has voted against almost every one of them.
I've always seen a rift on the council, and people always say, why can't the council just get along? Why can't everybody just get, well, you represent different constituencies, you have different backgrounds, you have different views of what's right and wrong, and I think there's always going to be differences. When I was on the council, it was that was the culture, is to get your face on TV, and you always want to be the one on TV, and Bredefeld was around in that time. And now, it
seems like a 5-2 riff.
Yeah.
The 5 against Brandow and Bredefeld.
Mm-hmm. And usually it's down philosophical lines, like Republican versus Democrat, but I don't think it is now.
I don't think it is, but so you think this is not unusual, not uncommon, and is it good for government?
It's just like when the Republicans get control of the Congress, instead of it being two-party system, now the Republicans have 2 factions or several factions. There's always going to be factionalizing in politics. It's going to be the nature. And I don't think we could ever expect them all to just get along.
Well, here's something here, like the rental inspection ordinance. Bredefeld, Olivier, surprisingly, and Steve Brandow voted against it. Everybody else voted for it. So that's just one issue that I took there, the rental inspection. So it seems like Bredefeld is voting more against the mayor than he is these other council people. Is it Bredefeld against the mayor, Lee Brand?
Yeah, and I don't know about that. I would say that usually the divisions are based on whether you think government is a solution and government can solve all of our problems, or whether the private sector should do it. The idea that government is now going to go inspect every rental unit in Fresno, that would be against free enterprise and property ownership basic philosophies. And so hopefully they're divided on those. Hopefully people wouldn't go against the mayor just to be against the mayor.
Will they ever solve the issue of the Fresno Grizzlies? Their money problems, the money woes.
No,
they won't.
That will never be solved.
It'll never be solved. No. But you still think the stadium is a good idea?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea we have a stadium. The way it came about, the funding, how we gave up a bunch of our parking revenues to fund it, things like that. I think there was some dishonesty going on that we should have been honest up front and said, hey, we can't afford a stadium. It's always going to be a burden, always going to cost us money. AAA teams are never going to make a ton of money. And go in there honestly and say, do we still want it? I say, yeah, we should still want it. It's only money problems if you didn't plan for the money problems.
30 seconds left. The Fulton Street that's going to open up, is that going to help downtown?
Well, you go up and down Van Ness one block over. I say Fulton's going to be just like Van Ness. I don't think we're going to see a giant change.
Okay. Mike Briggs, always good to see you, and I know you'll come back. CentralValleyTalk.com. You go to any computer or iPad, anywhere on your phone, you can get it.
That's right.
Mike,
Thank
good to see you.
Alice.
All right. Mike Briggs, CentralValleyTalk.com, 7 days a week. See you back here tomorrow with Dennis Hart, and have a great day, everybody. At 20/20 Optometric, your vision is their focus. Whether you're 5 or 65, Dr. Thomas Casagrande will get to know you, your lifestyle, and vision needs to ensure that your contacts or eyeglasses are a perfect fit and the right prescription every time. With the Valley's largest selection of eyewear, 20/20 has over 2,000 frames, including top designer brands like Coach, Tiffany, Prada, Ray-Ban, Oakley, and more. Eye exams start as low as $89, so call or stop by to schedule your appointment today.
If you have a need to promote your business or event, please consider MeTV Fresno for your next campaign. MeTV reaches over 100,000 of your potential customers in the Fresno area every single week. Plus, you can rest assured that your commercial is running in the greatest family-friendly programs of all time. MeTV Fresno delivers a strong, loyal audience ready to buy, and your campaign will cost a fraction of what you're paying for your advertising now. Call me today to find out how affordable MeTV is at 905-19...